I'll have coffee again one day or espresso or whatever. I just stopped like a while ago because I wanted to see what the difference between that and tea if I drank it regularly.
But if they're both caffeinated, does it matter?
For me, it does, because it also depends on what kind of coffee or what kind of espresso or what kind of tea, because they all have different caffeine amounts in it, right? Caffeinated coffee usually gets me like, and I'm already pretty much high energy.
So you're saying okay, well, I didn't know that. I thought maybe like a cup of coffee and a, cup of tea had the same kind of caffeine or the same. Now, I do know there are coffee brands that, I don't know if it's the beans they pick or the process they use, they can juice out or squeeze out extra caffeine. But I had no idea that there was a difference in the caffeine buzz.
Yeah, there are different levels of caffeine in all of them. And there's cleaner teas, for example. There's a brand that I like a lot that's called Pique, Pique. And that hits me right. I'm sure there's something within our DNA as well, where it's kind of like a nice calm ride up, calm ride down, if you will. It's not like a jittery, I'm wasted on caffeine, and I typically will only drink 1 cup in the morning when I wake up, and rarely do I have caffeine after that. Now, once in a while, I'll have like iced tea or something like that, or even a kombucha or something along those lines. But yeah, I have so much energy usually that I get jittery if I drink too much caffeine. I mean, everybody gets jittery if they drink too much caffeine, I would imagine. And of course, you could build a tolerance up to it. I understand that. But no, I switched to tea probably 3, 4, 5 something years ago. And I love it. It's such a cleaner flavor, or not flavor, sorry, a cleaner ride for me. Now, I do love coffee and I do love espresso and I like the flavor and all that stuff. But one day I'll go back maybe. But right now, tea. So anyway, tea.
Well, I think also it's a habit we build. Once you make that decision to change and you like you say, you're dedicated to tea, you found your secret sauce. So whatever that peak tea is that brings you up, in a glide, I think also there's a whole different mindset that kind of goes into that. If you're drinking tea, you're making a decision to make a change in your habit if you were drinking coffee beforehand. So that's kind of like a nice healthy choice. I'm going to have tea. I'm not going to have this. In my case, I'm the worst coffee drinker ever.
What do you mean?
Well, because of the fact I make coffee, I don't care what, I can detect the blend differences if it's dark or mild or whatever the case is. But I use the K-cups and then I put vanilla nut creamer in it. And if you're an extreme purist, first of all, if you pollute your coffee with anything, you're a gaff. So, it's just what it is. But
so you're not a purist, is what you're saying?
No, it's it's and then on top of it, my brother, he's very health conscious. He goes, dude, don't you see it? The K-cups have plastic. You're going to run the hot water through it, and then the microplastic thingies that happen with that, and then you're pouring plastic in as a creamer because all the Nestle vanilla nut creamer and all that stuff is based on a plastic formula.
Oh, that's
like
funny.
The core of it is plastic. It's not white. It's melted plastic with flavors and stuff into it. You think a cow has udders with vanilla nut that comes out of it?
So he's a big environmentalist, is what you're saying?
No, he's a big health nut.
It's just a health thing, not a save the environment plastic thing.
Right. You're putting plastic inside of you. You're consuming it. So,
I see.
Which is a trip because now what's happening is, I'm talking about like today's day and age. They now look at bodies of people who've been in the latest couple of generations that have consumed a lot of things that say, this isn't going to hurt you. And all of a sudden they're finding globs of microplastic left over in kidneys or livers and stuff like that. You can't win for losing.
Well, I think that stuff's just going to happen always. There's always, you read something and 10 years later, it's not healthy anymore, or vice versa. I think a lot of that is, not to go into like a conspiracy theory type things. I'm definitely not a conspiracy theorist. But I think a lot of that's just marketing and money and stuff like that too, right? Like this guy's got to pitch his site right now. So now all of a sudden I'm going to say that caffeine is really good for you or whatever. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of business and industry that wraps around into what we're hearing is healthy. So again, anyway, I don't want to go into a health kick thing. I'm just saying.
No, but it's also funny because yesterday we were just briefly mentioning, just to go to that and then we'll switch up, is we were talking about back in the day when they used to hand out cigarettes in hospitals.
Right. Because, that was 100% because, tobacco companies were king back then as far as running the way that we think, essentially, right? And like, I think you were telling me, this is a good story. Tell us about the doctor one you were telling me.
Oh, I'm a kid. This is in the 1960s. I'm diagnosed with asthma. At the time, we live in Sherman Oaks, California. And one of my dad's friends said, you got to see this doctor out in Beverly Hills. And we had gone, and for the longest time, he's a great doctor. He was giving me my allergy tests and my shots and stuff. But he would come in every once in a while with a lit cigarette to give me my shot for asthma.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
Or if it was, let's talk to my mom in his office, he'd be smoking his cigarette in front of me. The doctor was smoking the cigarette. But also at the time, let's face it, if that's the 60s and he was about 55 years old, he was brought up in the era
right.
of that marketing. But the thing is that smoking machine and that marketing machine, I mean, they were handing out cigarettes in hospitals. And there's actually old footage on YouTube where you could see those pitches. So I think, just to kind of fade on that subject matter, I think what I just want to circle back to is that you said, it comes out, you think it's good, you're going to watch all of a sudden. It'd be ironic if kale all of a sudden help you grow an extra appendage because you've been eating this salad that grows on the side of freeways or something like that.
And I think back then with cigarettes, just the last touch up for me as well is they didn't know any better at first, right? Back in the day, and they just did it and they smoked and it makes you feel better. It gives you that little buzz or whatever you're doing with cigarettes and all that. I mean, I smoked freaking 2 packs a day at one point in college. It was insanity.
Oh, dude, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I literally got to the point where I was, woke up one day and I'm like, I'm done. I can't smoke anymore. It was ridiculous. Yeah.
What did it do to you physically? I'm just curious because I know you as my friend and we opened up this whole thing about caffeine and energy.
Sure.
And how you control your buzz with your tea. So you are very energetic by nature. That's your default setting. What did the smoking do for you? Did you find yourself doing it because it was a social hitch? Or did you physically, did it chill you out or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it was a few things. 100% part of it was like an oral fixation and just got used to that. Social for sure, social smoker when I first started. I'm like, oh, I'll try this, I got a funny story about Q-tips. I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, shit.
And
I'm very afraid.
We're going on a journey here. A childhood journey. And then I just started smoking. I got addicted like everybody else that gets addicted to cigarettes. And I just started real light, a couple of cigarettes here and there. And then I was drinking, had a drink. So it was cool. And back then, I grew up in New York. I was young when I started smoking. I think I was probably, I want to say 16 or 17 when I started smoking, and maybe even younger. And it was, I remember going outside and it was freezing, right? So you couldn't smoke in the bars and a lot of the little places in my sleepy little suburbia and whatnot. So I'd go outside and be freezing. Why am I smoking? It's so cold. So you get all this mind trips and everything, right? And then it smells like shit, but you don't realize it when you're smoking. You go home and you have a girl over or whatever, and they're like, oh my God, your clothes stink. Yeah, smoker, all that kind of stuff. But back to the point. So yeah, and I think I just kept smoking and it made me feel, it kind of took the edge off a little bit, slightly, ever so slightly. It kind of just calmed me. And maybe, scientifically, that's a thing, but also I think it just was also a placebo effect to a degree. Because once I started smoking all the time, I mean, now it's 3, 5, 20 cigarettes. It's not doing anything. It's just I like the smell. I like the taste at that point too. And to this day, one of my favorite smells on the planet is when somebody lights a cigarette up. Just that first initial, light up is so, and it's probably just a comfort thing from back in the day. I'm sure there's some trauma or something baked into that, and that's it. Once that first pull, that first drag is done, I don't like the smell anymore, but that first one is so comforting to me. So yeah, I think it's all a combination of that. And honestly, I probably thought it was cool at one point. Oh, I smoke, I'm cool. So they get me. The advertisement probably got me too, to be fair. And I was a young kid. And then, yeah, I got up to, in college, I literally was smoking 2 packs a day. I mean, I was chain smoking all over the place.
Crazy. How long?
Oh man, 2 packs, I probably smoked for probably 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Something like that in college. Yeah, that's where I was going grinding. I smoked a lot of pot and all that. So, smoking pot, smoking a cigarette, complimenting with the drinks, all that kind of stuff. It just was a nice icing on the cake, if you will. And then
the all-American youthful beat the shit out of your body, period.
Yeah, man. That's what I was saying on the other one. I've definitely done a lot to myself and my body and my mind with that kind of stuff. But it's taken me on spiritual journees too. Not cigarettes, but the other things.
Oh, sure.
But, and then, yeah, one day, literally, I was saying, I can remember, I picture exactly when I quit smoking cigarettes. I was literally in my college bed, which was a mattress on the floor, because I just kind of I like platform bed type stuff. And I woke up and I had, my room was gross. I was a gross college kid. I had a ashtray next to me that was piled up with cigarettes, and I just woke up one morning and I'm coughing a fit. And this wasn't the first time. And I just, for whatever reason that day, I think I felt it in my chest and my lungs for the first time in a way that I never felt it before. And I'm like, I'm done. That's it. I'm quitting. And I quit cold turkey. Like just was like, I'm good. And that's the good thing. Definitely have an addictive personality for sure. And I've tried to tame that and bring it in a bit. So I think that addictive personality actually helps me quit like cold turkey like that. Cause I'm like, well, I'm going to be addictive the other way and stop, right? If that makes sense. And I think also...
No, it does. It's your sense of commitment. I mean,
that's it.
Without even knowing this backstory about smoking, I know that about you, that when you make a decision, it's a hard drop and it's done, and you make a decision. And I wish I had that kind of thing, but we wanted to start this on one subject matter, but I like where we're at right now with the addictive nature of how we latch onto things. One of the two things I want to bring up, actually, that physical motion you were talking about, the hand to mouth smoking thing is a physical addiction.
That's right.
It's already been written about that habit, that ritual of like going doop, 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 light smoke, put it to your mouth, ash out, and so on and so forth. The other thing is my brother, he has emphysema and he lost, I think it's a quarter or a third of his lung had cancer. So he's been smoking 2 packs a day ever since he was 16. And finally, and everybody tried to get him to quit. All of us, the family, we all gave him the same thing. There are probably a lot of non-smokers within families that are watching family members smoke. Like, come on, man, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. And they make their decision. Ron was a good smoker, though. He didn't force that on you. If you didn't like what he did, he wasn't that guy that blew smoke in your face kind of individual. He'd go outside and smoke. He would go out and do his thing and so on and so forth. But one day, this is 3 years ago, downstairs where his car was parked, he said he was getting out and all of a sudden he couldn't breathe. And then his daughter had found him laying next to his car.
Oh, shit.
Because his lung had collapsed. And I guess he didn't have enough oxygen or something in pain and he had passed out. And he was already kind of dazing into it when his daughter came down. And that's when they rushed him to the hospital. They said, "Brian, you got the gnarliest case of emphysema." And then while they're in there digging for the emphysema and clearing that out, I guess you take out the emphysema itself. They found stage 1 cancer in his lung.
Oh, damn.
The only cool thing, if there's anything imaginable cool about that whole scenario, is that where the cancer was in the part of the lobe of the lung that they were removing already for emphysema. So when you talk about clean margins, if you know anything about cancer or cutting something out, you get that margin. You want to make sure you get what you can out. They forget the clean margin. They just took a third of his lung or a quarter of his lung out. And then now, so once a year, he's got to go through a PET scan, which I learned is different. You drink the thing and it's a whole different kind of...
like dyes, they put dye in you? Yeah.
I think instead of a CAT scan.
It's called contrast, I believe.
Something like that.
Contrast, yeah.
So I can look through his body because that means the cancer is already alive in his body and kicking. I mean, I think we all have cancer in our cells, but I'm not a doctor. Let's not go there. But I watched my brother. It was the addictive nature of who he was. And my brother did have an addiction problem where he had to go to rehab twice because of painkillers. And then the painkillers morphed into something else. He was taking an ungodly amount of Vicodins. At one point, he had turned into like Mr. Hand from South Park. He was so bloated and he was so out of shape and he was slurring. And so finally, there was a family tackle. My other brother is just a madman in taking care of his family.
Wait, you mean family tackle like an intervention?
Intervention, right.
Yeah, okay.
And so actually, because he was part of the Screen Actors Guild, there was a rehab place in Pasadena, and he got in there and he cleaned up for a minute and he did okay. And then he slipped again and he went into rehab again, thankfully for my brother, thankfully for the Screen Actors Guild too, and that medical health insurance and stuff, they were really good. And but my brother's always had an addictive personality. And I think when it comes to coffee, when it comes to things that already have chems in there for you to be addicted to that you don't even know you're addicted to, I'm addicted to something that I struggle with right now, which is the bigger conversation, but I'm addicted to sugar and carbohydrates.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. I hear you.
And that in of itself turns into a litany of things that can happen to your body. I mean, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination grossly overweight, but I could stand to lose probably 25 pounds. My doctor, when I went in for surgery, said, George, you're kind of, you're like at 31 BMI. And according to the health world, I'm just like 32 is I'm considered obese. Even though I'm a larger person by nature because I lifted and I had some extra muscle mass that's dangling off my meat suit here. But I think the addictive nature, whether it's a chemical of a taste, like the vanilla nut creamer or the buzz of the coffee, or something like that, that addictive nature that you had when you picked up I can't imagine you smoking 2 packs a day because you're so health-minded now and health conscious. Maybe that was the genesis of you taking steps, and maybe, I don't know, we already talked about your cooking journey, so we don't want to go there,
Well,
but
I think it's part
you
of
start
it.
cleaning up your process of taking care of yourself.
I think it's part of it. I mean, there's so many threads I can pull on about your brother and like his daughter finding him in the garage and trauma and stuff like that. But maybe we'll save that for later because that's not my story to tell. That's your brother's or yours or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for sure. I think along the way, me smoking 2 packs of cigarette, me doing a lot of drugs back in the day and partying and drinking and all that stuff. You know, I think the extremism of it all, for me, I was lucky that it activated me in a way that I cleaned up eventually. But it wasn't overnight. I mean, I was doing shit for a long time. And I think the health part of it was probably scary for me. I mean, obviously I don't have cancer, not obviously, but I don't have cancer or emphysema. So that's a whole other level of scary, obviously. So I'm not putting myself in the same bucket as your brother or anything like that. I don't want to minimize something like that. But I will say, I've had my own scares, like just the coughing fits in my lungs and my chest, and I feel like I'm going to die, honestly. That's what you feel like when you get to that extreme level, and I've done
drowning in the chems in your lungs.
That's it, you know what I mean?
Mucus and everything.
Yeah, that's it, and I've definitely been partying, since we're on this kick, I guess. I've definitely, the reason I stopped partying and doing, a bunch of whatever, and whatever I was doing back in the day, I remember, again, another visual. I have definitely visuals that I'm like, oh yeah, that was I don't think there's aha moments, but I think we have so many moments that build up to that. I'll call them right now an aha moment, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And another one for me with the health and the just kind of getting my life together and my shit together when I was younger is, it was just, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 in the morning or whatever, home from a bender, all that kind of stuff, sitting in the bottom of a bathtub, birds chirping. That's the worst sound when you come in from a bender and the sun's coming in and my eyes are dehydrated from the light and I'm praying to the whoever gods, not the porcelains. I'm not puking at this point, but
you just want to get past this.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting, and this has been going on for a while, and I'm sitting in it's no other night than any other night I've been out partying back when I was younger, right? And I'm sitting in the bottom of the bathtub, like just sitting. I love to sit in the bottom of the bathtub and let the shower just hit me. It's just one of my things I love. It's a joy for me. But this wasn't a joy in this moment, right? I'm sitting there and I'm in that, whatever reason, that moment, the water's hitting me and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, holy shit. I'm literally have that moment of I'm throwing my life away right now. As much as I was working and hustling, I'm like, but am I? I'm like, I'm doing so much shit right now that's taking me away from what I'm trying to do and establish a life and build my life with a whatever job and a woman or a girl at that point and all that stuff. And I just had that moment of like, I literally can remember the voiceover, me talking out loud to myself going, enough, I'm done. It's kind of like, if you've ever seen, there's a ridiculous analogy, but there's a movie, Love Actually. It's one of my favorite holiday movies. And this is completely different because a guy is kind of in love with his best friend's girlfriend or wife at this point. And he finally says to himself as he walks out the door, he goes there during the holidays and he pretends like he's Carol and the guy's inside and the girl comes out and he's holding up these cards. It's a very famous thing that people mimicked for, memes and YouTube videos and all that shit. Anyway, from the movie. And he's pulling this thing and he tells her eventually that he's into her. And then he walks away and then she comes over and she like hugs him or whatever, gives him a little kiss, just this, in other words to say, I hear you, but whatever, just, we can't do this kind of thing. At least that's what I got from it. And then as he's walking away, he's literally like, okay, enough. Something along those lines. It always reminds me of that because that's the moment that I actually had when it came to drugs and partying and stuff like that in the bathtub. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, they're all vices. I think that's where I'm going with this. You said before, like, we're addicted to coffee or caffeine or for you, sugar and carbs right now. We're all addicted to something at some point of our life. We could call it whatever we want. And I'll just go into, not to go into this, but just as a point, the hustle culture. People are addicted to their jobs. What makes that any better or worse than somebody addicted to caffeine? I'm not asking even for an answer. I'm just saying, like, people kill themselves because of work and they put themselves in a hospital because they're so stressed out. And these could be high-level CEOs or just whoever, right? Me, just at my job. So, like, that's an addiction too, but we don't talk about it like we do when it comes to drugs and alcohol and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I see. The actual substance abuse sector of addiction obviously we all know, and especially since you're into mental health and awareness and stuff like that, is a derivative of something else that's happening, in most cases, in your real life. You're looking at something else to bring you to another space to, distract from whatever else is truly going on back there. And I'm not a psychologist, and I know that you have a lot more knowledge of that, but I think there are things in it too where the people such as yourself, you hit that point and you're able to pull up and you're able to make that. Some people don't hit that point in their journey and they catastrophically, something happens to them physically, or they get themselves to a place where that's just, unfortunately, that's the end of the journey for some people. But for some people, you get the opportunity, such as you, to have a realization and reflection on something and finally say, I can't do that anymore. For me, what's been really difficult is that, I don't want to say really difficult because I'm kind of like preloading my future sense of change if I say it's been really difficult. What I'm aware of and what I recognize is that, okay, I guess, was it something maybe I learned as a kid, or not as a kid, but younger, about AA, that one of the main things that you do in that journey, 50% of that journey, or 50% of the healing, is admitting that you have the addiction, and then the rest of it is the work. I definitely know that I cannot walk past a box of donuts without kind of like going, I'm on. Like the funny joke is craft services we were talking about, funny enough. I think that was one of my favorite things of working on sets, when I was an extra or doing whatever it is like, where's Crafty? Because they always had quick snacks. And those were usually not that healthy. Yes, there was this beautiful thing of fruits and stuff, which is really cute and cool. But if you had the donuts, what I think I also learned too is that the transpo guys called donuts Union steaks.
Oh,
it was
funny.
kind of the morning Union steak or something, with the donuts and stuff like that.
Sure.
But for me, if I'm at home, I can govern my sugar intake. Like, all right, I know there's sugar in my nut creamer. I know there's sugars in the things that, there's sugar in that ketchup. When I have a hamburger, I won't eat buns because there's carbohydrates that'll bring the sugar. When I'm here, I can manage it. When I'm out there, it's literally, I'm fighting to grab just that one candy on my checkout, that impulse buy. Or if I'm at, the nonprofit working or something like that, and they have pastries and cookies out, I'm like, oh my God, I have to walk by, I have to turn away. So it's something that I wish, in the weirdest of ways, this whole fad about all these GLP-1 drugs that you take shots of and people are losing weight. Yeah, I can lose the weight myself. But there's one thing about that process that I've learned that intrigues me. Not that I'm going to take the shots and I want to lose weight, but what happens is, and what's been studied is that whatever that GLP-1 thing does, it also knocks out all of your cravings.
Right.
Like all the way to even Vegas, they've studied that people who are on GL1Ps don't feel like gambling, that are gamblers. They don't drink wine anymore. They don't eat candies and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know if that's like, Robin Williams once said as a hard joke, a sad joke, it would be like taking chemo because you need a haircut. You know what I'm saying? That's like in the balance of that statement is like, well, my thing is, if I could find a fix to shut off my sugar cravings for about 2 months, because also what I understand is if you stop doing something long enough in that habitual way your mind is programmed, then you stop the craving. So when people say, you got to stop drinking coffee, the first 2 days is going to be gnarly. You're going to get a headache and you're going to do this. And then the third day you'll kind of feel okay and you might get a little nauseous and that slow creep of, what do you call it when?
Dopamine?
No. When you get off drugs and you go through that process. Withdrawals.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's like, I feel like I'm that unfortunate pharma model of saying, hey, see how this guy's complaining about this? We need to formulate a drug to do that and sell it. But I'd like to get a boost or something, like saying, I want to just stop the craving,
No, I understand that. I think like, as far as the habitual, 21 days to create a habit is kind of what they say, right? So I agree 100%.
Isn't that a book?
It could be very well.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I think we can all eventually maybe learn to do the 21 days, quote unquote 21. It could be, 10, 50, whatever, and build up a tolerance against sugar, let's say, our tolerance against whatever. But I think it's easier said than done too, right? I don't want to minimize when people are addicted to something, because I do think that that's a illness and a disease for sure, addiction. You know what I mean? So, and I think that I was lucky, and I was probably on the precipice of, rehab. I wasn't there, and I wasn't even there. Like, I'm not minimizing anyone that went to rehab, and I'm not trying to compare myself to anyone that did anything. but I could have easily went the other way. So I was very lucky. I don't want to make it like I was smart about getting off of, partying and stuff like that, right? The alcohol and the drug gods are like, yeah, we don't want you. You know what I mean? And I just got lucky, and I had that moment that day where I'm like, fuck this, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And it took a while. It wasn't like that second I was done with that stuff. Cigarettes, yes. It still trickled, and I had to build the habit. So I was lucky that I got a trigger that helped me build the habit. And I don't even know what that trigger was, except for that day it happened to be the birds chirping and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And I think I also want to say that I'm not unhappy that I was in the extremes or the addictive personality, because I heard someone say one time, who was it? It was like a famous actor or somebody that was battling something, and they're like, well, if I didn't know the extremes, I wouldn't know how to come into the middle and appreciate the middle of life. And I think that was one of the big takeaways I took from all my partying and stuff like that. My addictive personality has definitely gotten me to the place I am now, where I try to stay away from the extremes. If I want to do that, I'll go skydiving or something and get a little quick hit of Rush or something like that. You know what I mean? So, and I think people just need to try their best to choose the journey they're on and fight the addictions that they have. And that's hard as fuck. You know what I mean? It's so hard. Like, why do some people battle addiction their whole life and some people don't? There's definitely something in DNA with that. And I'm all about, habit stacking, and now I'm 100% into that and the healthy side of things, and continuing to build up my toolkit, if you will, of habits to combat things like sugar. And I actually appreciate that so the reason that in your house you're good, I think, and outside you're like, ooh, I see a craft service table, or I see, I'm at a store and like, shit, I got to eat that sweet tooth thing. You know what I mean? But at home, it's a controlled environment. So one of the ways that I stay away from eating a lot of junk, because I'm usually pretty good, except for holidays. I'm one of those people for sure. Holidays, I'm gouging when I go out off to Nevada to visit the family, and I'm just eating and I'm eating and I'm like, whatever, it's holidays, I'm going to do it. Is I don't keep stuff in my house. I literally won't keep sweets in my house ever. And I keep a very minimal amount of foods in my house. I don't have like bags of chips. I don't have bags of sweets. It's not to say I don't have a sweet once in a while or do something like that. I'm not an animal, I'm not a,
Sure.
But I don't keep stuff in my house. And that's a way that out of sight, out of mind, right? So it helps build that habit.
Right.
So in your place, which we're sitting in right now, yeah, there's some stuff in here, but I don't see it as like an excessive amount of junk food lurking around your place. And of course, you could still have discipline and not eat stuff in your place. But I would ask myself and others, if you don't want to eat junk food, why do you have it in your house? That's one way to get it out. And again, you could wean off the addiction of the sweets or the whatever you're doing. Try not to have it in your place. And again, it's easy to go out and buy something or see something or do it. But I think there's little baby steps that I took to get off of my addictive personality trait.
Yeah, I did go through a period a few years ago where I actually lost 10 pounds. I put myself on a mission. I got one of those apps on my phones that counted calories. I could set a program. I want to hit 2 pounds a week of loss. It was really cool because it put me in a pattern where it's an uncomfortable pattern, which is also a repetitive action every day. I'm not like that. I've never been that guy to at 8 be here, at 8:30 be here, at 9 o'clock be here and do this. But it put me on that. And it was really a great discipline. But, I woke up and just had a hard-boiled egg and a small fruit and a coffee without, any creamer. And then I'd do my walk. And then if I did my walk, I did exercise. It was really funny because if I only had 1,800 calories that I could eat during the day under this program I was working on, if I did exercise, it gave me more calories, which gave me more leverage to eat a little bit more food, which I found, okay, I felt a little caveman-ish just with that, I earned the right to eat food because I took care of myself, which I thought was a really cool thing. And when I did that, I did lose the 10 pounds, but like anything else, and like it's almost as if I was going to think of the people up there going, ha, 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 look at this human. He thinks he's going to get away from the addictive nature of sugar. Give him 10 days, give him a month and 6 weeks or something, and he'll fall right back in. And you do. And I did. And even here is, like I said, you're looking at my place. And the truth be told, what I have is a shit ton of carbs. Even though I'm thinking I'm not eating sugars, I got a ton of carbs, fast food style carbs, a little cereal, even though I think it's good. It's Cheerios without sugar, or if it's, all the stuff that I have, like granola bars and stuff, there's sugar in everything. And then my worst habit ever, according to people who keep an eye on this stuff, is I probably have 2 to 3 tablespoons of crunchy peanut butter a day, meaning just on a spoon. That's my snack. I know there's sugar in it, so I know I'm getting some kind of fix out of it. And then I actually have a giant Costco Kirkland can of, blistered peanuts. Now I'll go into that, and if I have that, I'll kind of dip into that first. If I don't, I'm hitting the peanut butter. But then depending on who you ask too, peanuts are its own, peanuts could be this and it could be causing a side. Sometimes there is that overstimulation of like, when you listen to people talk about health and foods and sugars and stuff, you go, God, what path do I take? Every path I take, inevitably, if I'm not filtering my water with an ionized, how do you do? You know what I'm saying? There's a death sentence that's attached to every answer.
Well, I think that's a good point. You got to listen to who you listen to, right? Like you got to buy into somebody. If you're really trying to be healthy, you know what I do? I'll buy into, I'll research and I'll listen to whoever, doctors, scientists, athletes. I really ping into a lot of athletes because professional athletes, that is their tool. Their body and their mind is their tool. They have to stay healthy. I'm talking whatever, hockey players, football players, baseball players, anything. I'm not saying they're all eating amazing or anything like that, but I'll ping onto someone maybe like a LeBron James, who I know he's putting $1 million plus into his body a year and his mind and all that stuff, period. Okay, cool. Or it's like when I get hurt, I'm lucky enough to live in Los Angeles. So I'll literally look up when I tore ligaments in my knee and stuff like that, I'll look up who the Kings, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Dodgers, the Angels, who are they going to? Who are their doctors? That's the doctors I go to. So I think you got to ping on to people that you think are going to be the best resource for what you're trying to do. And it's not to say you go to that doctor and you like them. You might be like, nah, not my thing. So you got to keep going until you find somebody. And I think it's the same with the health side of things as far as what we're putting in our body. I'll start looking at specific people, and I also know my DNA. I know I'll go into carbs since you're talking about carbs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat a lot of carbs. And for me, when I say I'm not eating a ton of pastas and stuff like that. Now, if I'm running a marathon or I'm running something like that, I'll eat pastas for training because I'm burning off so much calories. Right. And I need carbs to, that's just in
that's your
the
fuel.
diet.
That's
my fuel.
Your intentional fuel for something
that's
that
right.
You know you're running off the next day.
Right. So, but I know if I'm not running and I'm starting to eat a lot of carbs, I just happen to feel it in my gut. Like it sits with me. I'm just, that's just my body frame maybe. And I get it sits with probably everybody. But to me, I could really feel the heaviness of stuff. And I love pasta and all that kind of jazz. So I think you also got to know your body. And a lot of it's trial and error. You're putting things in your body and you're like, oh, that feels better. It's kind of like with racing and running and stuff like that. It's like you got to go out and you got to train your fuel and your hydration and all that so you know when race day comes, this is working. It's kind of the same in real life. Like, what are you eating? And clearly, if you're eating a Snickers bar or M&Ms, that's not healthy for you. It's just wasted calories. Now, I eat peanut M&Ms. That's one of my vices. So
right.
I don't eat it a ton, but I'll eat it. I go, all right, they got me at the impulse section at the grocery store today. You got me. And I'll do it because, you got to eat some things and enjoy some things for sure. I'm not like 100%, I'm not eating junk food all the time. That's just not the way I want to live. But at the same time, what I'll adjust as I start eating things. I'll listen to like if you were a doctor or a scientist or an athlete, I'm like, oh, GB's doing the blah, blah, blah. Let me try that and see if it works for me. And I'm always a lot running and hiking. So I'm burning a lot of calories. So I'm fortunate in the way that I could eat some more calories, but I'm still trying to eat usually healthy calories. If I'm not on vacation, I'll cheat, all that kind of stuff. So I think I think each individual also has to try not to get stuck in the rabbit hole of listening to just anybody they hear. They got to then try it on their own bodies and do their own calculations if they're that hardcore. And I would say if you want to lose weight quickly, and I'm not advocating this for anyone. I'm not a doctor, a nutritionist, and I don't know your body and your health. But for me, immediately, not that I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm trying to feel better and even a few pounds over holidays or whatever, I will immediately cut out sugar and carbs, and within days, I'm already like, oh yeah, that's it, And I don't drink really that much, so I'm not getting a lot of weight or anything like that from beer or anything. I'll have occasional, but just be smart about it. If you really want to get into a healthy mode of life, it's baby steps. The other thing is, it's kind of like the New Year's resolution. Why do like X amount fail?
Right, exactly.
Because you're putting these high standards on yourself that you never do. I'll just go into running because clearly, that's what I know. People are like, oh, I'm going to run a marathon. And I'm like, by like March, are you? You have that mindset that you can just switch like that? You've never run a day in your life, but now you're going to go run a marathon? We set these high goals. It's the same thing with eating and nutrition and trying to get healthy. Don't set these crazy high goals for yourself within 2 days. Like, do a smart plan and kind of spread it out. So now, all right, maybe in the next few months, I am going to lose 2 pounds, or I'm going to switch from eating so many carbs to this amount of carbs. Like, do baby steps with everything. That's how we build our habits to, get healthier or anything otherwise. Habit stacking. That's it, man.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conversation, and of course the nucleus of that too is everybody's completely different. We can be kind of summarized or grouped into groupings of people. Like you can identify, Jeebs and these people seem to have the same thing. This is what they do, and this is guys like Steve who have the ability to hit the switch and no longer be. It's like you and Cher have that. You and Cher have that ability. She stopped drinking by hitting the switch, but she could drink a bottle of wine at night and wake up in the morning with no headache. Some people would say, well, that means she had a problem. No, she didn't. I watched her function, and it wasn't now someone's going to go, oh yeah, that's called a functioning blah, blah, blah. No, one day, she used to smoke after her kids were born. And one day a cigarette butt she thought she put out landed, she heard her daughter screaming and crying in the back, and it flicked and it started burning her.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I'm done. I mean, she had that boom, 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 didn't even have to look back or anything. Right now, she's really healthy because she made some decisions, to take care of herself and eat better because she got into the corporate world and stuff. And when you do, you eat a lot of cake sometimes, you go into all kinds of stuff. She's really healthy and stuff, but you and her have that. You guys are over here and you guys have that lucky thing. And then there's, us that have to work a little harder. There are those who have full-on legitimate DNA wiring that has to be worked through in a different way.
Right.
When we're doing like a podcast, and generalization saying, you should, we should, anything. I like to kind of stay in my box of saying, I admit that my problem is just like you were saying, we sharing this kind of a thing from the inside out, not looking at other people's problems and diagnosing it. I think that's also a really fun part of how what we do here on the podcast is like, yeah, man, this is me. And I'm the one that's suffering through this. And I'm the one that's still suffering or learned a lesson. This is a lesson that I learned. But at the same token, I put out a little video on one of my little channels, had to do with a jet ski going across the water. The jet ski goes across the water and it goes out of frame. But the rest of the conversation is the wake that's left behind it. And I only hope in my life that the wake I leave behind in my life doesn't disrupt anybody else's journey. By that, it's like I make a decision to only talk about myself in these subject matters about the things that I've gone through without casting out what anybody should be doing. Because I believe the power in the change that I think we look for is inherently in these people. They just have to find their own jet ski.
Absolutely.
And open space. And
no metaphor left unturned on this one.
I did go there. I had a moment yesterday where I got all artsy fartsy and shit.
No, I love it. I mean, I agree with you. Like, it's fun to be guests on our own podcast, kind of, right? So,
wow, that's the best way to put it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's fun. And I agree with you. Like, I never want to be preachy. And I think part of why we're doing this podcast is not about giving advice or, anything like that. We're, again, like you said a bunch of times, we're not doctors, psychologists, anything like that. We're just feeding off of each other and our stories. And yeah, there's certain things I think that people should do. I mean, I'm not going to lie. We all have that judgment in us a little bit, but I'm not here to tell people what to do. And I don't know anyone's story that I don't know. So they got to go through whatever they're going through. And I hope that they're doing the best. Every person on the planet, for sure. And a lot of it is luck. Like I bust my ass now to try to maintain you can sneeze, go for it.
That's all right. I had an oyster on the half lung.
Everyone's got their own story I don't ever want to tell anyone what to do or preach to anybody like that. We're just talking story and whatnot. And a lot of it is luck. Let's be realistic. A lot of life in general is luck. I got lucky that I'm one of the people that I had a wake-up call, and I had about 50 wake-up calls. And the 50th one, for whatever reason, ding, ding, ding. The bell went off. I'm like, holy shit, I'm fucking my life up. I did have that call, but it was a long time. It wasn't an overnight thing, right? And another thing that I think helped get out of my shit is I ate so much fucking junk food when I was a kid. It was insanity. So much salt when I was a kid. When I was something along the lines of like 9 or 11, like extremely young, I went to the doctor, our general practitioner back in the day, and he literally said to my mom, and this isn't on my mom because I was the one just sneaking shit all over the place and eating salts and candies like crazy. And he said, what are you doing to your kid? His blood pressure is so high right now. It's like in the danger mode that I had to go on that fake salt stuff. I wasn't allowed to eat salt for a while because and I was like 9 or 11, right? And like, that's insanity. And I worked at fast food joints when I was growing up, McDonald's, Kentucky
Whiffing,
Fried
just whiffing
Chicken,
that stuff.
eating that stuff like crazy. And we'd ride our bike. My friend Ryan and I would ride our bike all the time. We'd go from, my parents' house, our house, all the way to the arcade or whatever back in the day, and we'd stop at the little convenience store. And I'm telling you, if I got a little bit of money, all my money went to was baseball cards back then, and they went to arcade, and they went to candy.
Right.
So the junk food. So we would go, and I was excessive, right? The addictive personality. I would go into that candy store, the convenience store, and the little mart in little sleepy slice of suburbia. And I go in, and if I had whatever it was, I would pile on junk food and baseball cards on the counter, and that's it. There's my money. I'd save a little bit for the arcade, of course. I loved playing games back then. And I'd have Fun Dip. You remember Fun Dip? And
oh my
that's
God,
just pure
that
sugar, dude.
Sugar and the dip thing and eating. Oh my God.
So I had addictive personality since I was a kid, man. So I think I got a lot of life lessons along the way of being crazy with sugar, alcohol, drugs. You name it, I did it. To a degree of ridiculousness. And I'm lucky. I'm probably lucky to be alive. Definitely could have went the other way where I killed myself, or I threw everyone out of my life because people didn't like me in the sense of I was being an asshole, and I was definitely an asshole for a while. I'm sure to a lot of people, and I probably did push a lot of people out of my life. But thankfully, I got a handle on it. So I just say that to say it's hard, man, and it's hard for everyone. So yeah, I think I would never judge or tell somebody what they would do, but I would do hopefully something like I'll bring it back around to. I think you said you're one of your brothers where he did an intervention. So good for him, because that's a hard thing to do, is try to get somebody that you love and your family member or a friend or anyone into a space to listen to you while they're gone off on their drugs. Because believe me, there's been plenty of times I've had friends say to me specifically like, you're nuts. You're addicted to this. I've had him say that to me, one friend in particular, and I'm just laughed because I knew it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, give me more. So it's hard to get somebody and wrap their heads around the idea of becoming clean when they're fucked up. And that could be sugar, work, or anything. It doesn't have to be drugs. Drugs is just the one that's highlighted in our society to the nth degree. There's plenty of other vices that people go through that, we all get stuck on.
Yeah, without a doubt. My other brother did save my younger brother's life. There's no two ways about it. And, he is strict and stern. And he also was on the phone. He has that uncanny ability to fight with the doctors or the insurance, or even as recent as my mom's hip surgery, where they wanted to discharge her after the second day. But she's 85 years old. My brother fought tooth and nail and made sure mom stayed in for like 3 or 4 days, even though, the hospital or the HMO was not really behind it. But, he was in on it, and he's got that uncanny ability. If he cares about you and if he's going to take care of you, he just has that incredible, strength. He and Cher also have that, defined ability to, hey, this is Pono, this is what, or this is righteous, this is what you got to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're doing. And I'm sorry if your butt hurt at the other end of the phone, but I'm making sure that I'm getting what's due and what's right to my mother or my brother with the kind of health care they need, that he doesn't end up just being a number.
That's it. You got to advocate.
So he had that. Advocate. That's what we do here from where we sit.
No, but that's a big deal, because I think it's extremely, another thing that I'll give you a nod to your brother and share in that way. I think it's extremely difficult to advocate for people in difficult times, especially if someone's dying or you're in the hospital or you're watching that, because you also have that stress of somebody going through something, and you're trying to protect them, but you're trying to find a balance of, you don't want to piss the doctors, the nurses, the whoever off either, because then they're still hopefully going to do their job, and they're dealing with people all the time. So they get it, but then you get that one person that had the bad day maybe, and they shift and they don't give the care, they don't give the love or the whatever the person needs. So, and I think that's a gift that your brother has, that your Cher has that.
Yeah.
It's a gift that you have that moxie, that confidence, that power and strength to protect your loved one going through struggle in a way that you're like, no, this is literally do or die, get it done, and let's fix them and help them and support them. I think that's a gift, man. It's very, very challenging to do that. I've been in those positions in the hospital when my dad was dying and all that, and it's hard. And now you have other family members that have different opinions and stuff like that, not even in a bad way, but just in a, like, we have different choices that we want to make. So of course there's one person that hopefully you're advocating or selecting. So
even right now, just to step on that, I feel great that my brother, at where he's at in his journey now, he's actually here living with my mother and my stepfather, and keeping an eye on them. They're not indigent by any stretch of the imagination, but he has that inherent thing. I mean, I'm trying to. He still has some things he wants to do with his life, but he's such a great caretaker. That there's a lot of people. We're the number one or number two state for retirees or people getting older per capita. So there's a lot of people that need this kind of help and stuff. I think it's just an absolutely magical thing in a personality to do that.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. There are just certain people that were put on this earth and they have the caregiver trait or quality, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think we underestimate that, especially when you have to caregive for somebody that is difficult, challenging,
sure. We all know
going
that.
through something, going through an addiction, because we're not all the best when we're struggling with stuff. And to deal with that person and stick with them and understand that they're going through something. So that's adding to the stress, the chaos, the whatever, and continue to push and advocate for that person, whether it's as extreme as someone dying in a hospital or someone that's addicted to drugs and trying to, on the verge of death and all that, to just more or less chaotic, extreme circumstances. It's amazing that we all should be so lucky to have people like your brother in our lives that will help us when we're battling our demons and whatnot. So good for you, bro.
And it is an unsung sometimes. It's an unsung or
Hero?
Undercelebrated. The hero without capes.
Yeah, unsung hero.
Yeah, the hero without capes and stuff like that. But one of the other things before we dig out and get ourselves some spam masubi.
That's right, masubi time.
What is it? People of the Pokey. Pokey of the people.
Pokey of the people.
Sorry, I had a clutch there.
Haleva, go get some.
Haleva, yes.
Some masubi is brilliant.
After that, we're going to hit Aoki's shave ice.
That's
Anyhow, free pitch, free love for the local folks here. One of the other things that I find very, very enjoyable with the channels that I have with reacting to music or my little itty bitty channel, which is just positive content. One of the things that makes when I feel like I'm just tired of this, I'm not, I'm just, going through my creator clutch, then I hit those comments. I'm so glad you listened to this song and the way you did it. You remind me of my father and it brought such great memories and on and on and on. Or something that I do on my little channel and it just resonates with people going, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I saw this video because I feel shame for having kidney failure or whatever it is that I have. And it's good to know that you had the ability to put it out there and share, So the word commiseration, I think, is only locked into defining being able to identify with somebody that's going through something negative. I don't know. I'm not too good on the definition of the word commiseration, but it does sound like it's more like, I commiserate with you. It's not like, it's more like a Darth Vader move than an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of verbiage and stuff like that. But when you do put out content, who knows what happens to, the content we put out. But that is a really super cool side bonus of not talking to people and saying this is what I think you should do, but sharing what it is that we've gone through. So there's an identifiable reality to the story, to the messaging, and or to in our case, from where we sit, the podcast.
I hear you. I think we're all on the journey together. Anyone listening to this, anyone doing their own thing, anyone we see out in public, that single serving friend we meet at on a plane for a minute or a restaurant or whatever, we're all on the journey together. So just appreciate everyone, compliment everyone when you can, because that changes things, right? You never know whose life you're going to save by being kind.
Or at least lift them through a moment.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's plenty of stories that, and I'll just use one to kind of button this up since we're talking about the nice comments on social media and whatnot that help you, that also help you and make you feel good, which is great. That's what it is. It's just a relationship. We're all just in relationships with each other that it's nice to build each other up, right? And, and there's a story where I'll go into the mental health or the extreme side of things for a second in a positive way where kindness saved a life, and I'm sure everyone knows a story like this or has heard of a story like this, but there was a girl walking down the streets of New York City, hustle and bustle, people everywhere, all that kind of jazz. And she's at the corner of, a block, an intersection, if you will. And she's at the light and the light's red. And a guy walks by and he just sees her and he sees that maybe she's got that energy, that look like something was going on, maybe he wasn't thinking like death or anything like that or suicide. He was just thinking, oh, you know what? He's a nice guy and all that. And he walks up to her and he just looks at her. He's like, hey, how are you today? Literally, that's all he said to her. Hi, how are you? And she did one of those double takes. She's like, huh? What? He's like, oh, how are you today? Hello. And she was so just sparked something in her that somebody actually paid attention to her and she didn't feel unseen.
Mm-hmm.
That she was like, holy shit, I'm not invisible. And she was literally going home to kill herself and take her life. And because that stranger said 3 words, hello, how are you? Sorry, 4 words. I'm counting them on my fingers. Because that stranger said 4 words to her, it actually saved her life. And maybe that wasn't the aha moment. There was other moments building up to it. But the point being, from what you're saying, nice comments. And, whatever, you're going to have trolls, you're going to have people that are just angry and spiteful and all that. But there's tons of other people that are those kind of caretakers, if you will, for us. That guy was a caretaker of that girl specifically in that moment. So be a caretaker and just support people that are going through struggles. And it's hard to get through anything we're trying to get through and build those habits and habit stack like we're talking about. So, much love.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to end the podcast here. I think sometimes it's just those few words of kindness that can lift somebody, and you don't know when, and you don't intentionally do it. You know what I'm saying? But when that time comes and you turn to somebody and that energy is inviting, and you say those magic words, you never can tell what kind of response you're going to get. Not the response you're going to get to make you feel better, but you never know what kind of impact those few words make on that individual, like your story. So yeah,
that's it. One word can change the direction of somebody's life. Don't ever forget that. So
from where we sit.
Thanks everyone for listening. And GB, I love you.
Oh my God, this guy. All right, see ya.